So I want to just take 10 minutes, be as fast as I can, to suggest that there are primary sources available to us in the landscape. And they can be in faraway places like Canyon de Chelly, where I've spent a lot of time, or they can be right here in Denver, as my partner Todd Wolfe will talk about. My first experience with this began in graduate school. I was interviewing the chairman of the Washoe Tribal Nation, Brian Wallace, and I was doing what good PhD students do, feverishly writing down everything he said. And at a certain moment during our conversation, he said, you know, in Washoe culture, we believe if you're writing something down, you intend to forget it. So I wrote that down. Took about a 30-second pause and said, oh, okay, I can listen. And at that point, he said, for Washoe people, history is about place more than time. And that went against everything I was learning in my doctoral program, everything I had done in my master's program. And it actually knocked me off of my orbit a little bit. I had to go home back to Arizona where I was living and think about that. But as I considered it, it started popping up in different places. And here we have Mary Crow Dog talking about the Lakota. And she said the Sioux used to keep winter counts, picture writings on buffalo skin, which told our people's story from year to year. Well, the whole country is one vast winter count. And I like to think about what that meant and what that means to Lakota people. And certainly across Indian reservations in North America, through Central America and down around the world, really, we'll encounter communities where the meaning they derive comes from the place. And taking the people away from that place takes away their meaning, and in some ways their worldviews. So 5 years ago, my second year here in Denver, I was part of a program that brings interns down to the Mountain Ute Reservation every summer, from Metro, from Boulder, from Fort Collins. And I led students on a trip into Canyon. Well, I didn't lead students. I asked my friend, Deb Lem, a full-blooded Navajo woman, if she would be kind enough to lead students into Canyon de Chelly, and she said yes. And it's just been percolating for the past 5 years, this idea that we can use place. And here with Canyon de Chelly, which really was the last citadel of defense for the Dene, or Navajo people, as they were being colonized in the 1860s, it's so rich with meaning. There has to be opportunities to learn from the place as well as the people. And this takes us out of the traditional archival research that many of us are trained in and is still quite useful and necessary. So here I just found some pictures in the Library of Congress collection, some historic photos of Canyon de Chelly. And this is last summer with the group of students that we took into the canyon. I'm down there in front with my youngest son, and then there were about 26 of us that went this past summer. It really was a wonderful experience. Deb takes us on a tour where she points out significant landmarks and interprets petroglyphs on the canyon walls. And we end up at her family's property in the afternoon, and her mother makes lunch for everyone. It really is a wonderful experience. And I started thinking, how can we bring this into the classroom? And it occurred to me that we can try to interpret the place itself and ask students, first, before you go, find some pictures, find some photographs, do some research, find some interviews, identify what's important about this place to Dene people, identify how it's changed through time, and then let's go look ourselves. And just by coincidence, the first time I did this in 2007, my wife took this photo. It's some glyphs on the canyon wall. And as I was going through the Library of Congress collection, I found this, which dates back to the early 20th century, 1915. And just by coincidence, it turns out we had the same glyphs. And you can see aging in the rock itself. And the canyon itself is a wonderful opportunity to do this. Here's another historic photograph from the Library of Congress collection. And you can see the water in the canyon and the extent to which the river had flowed that particular summer when this photographer, Poley, was there. And here you can notice the remnants of that, the high water mark. The water's not there anymore. And here's an opportunity to have questions for students or let the students pose their own questions about what does it mean? Where's the water? What's happened? What's happening? Is it just the time of year, or is this cyclical? Is this something that's long-term, short-term? Another possible exercise, I thought, have them identify historic photos that portray ruin sites, ancestral Pueblo or Anasazi ruin sites, and then ask them, while we're in the canyon, can you find that ruin? And here's that same ruin, in 2012. So I want to give it over to my partner, Todd. He's going to talk about actually applying some of these ideas through a process known as rephotography. And really, to my mind, the master of rephotography is Mark Klett, who's at Arizona State University. And this is a wonderful example. You have here these juxtaposed images. You have the original image from 1873, moraines on Clear Creek in the Valley of the Arkansas, Colorado. And then Klett here and his partner rephotographed it in 77, and obviously you see there's a significant reservoir. And again, you can ask questions or have students ask questions about, what does this tell us? What's changed? What human population needs that water in the reservoir? What does it tell us about the people who build these reservoirs? What about the people who were there before? Did they use water in this way? So I think there's all kinds of exciting possibilities, and Todd will get into that a bit more with regard to how we might apply this. So if you have any questions or want to be in communication with me, just find my email address through the MSU, Metro State University website. I'm happy to correspond and have this conversation. It's a process that I'm going through myself, and hopefully my contact is in the registration book. Yeah, thank you, the guide. Thank you. Okay, so feel free to contact me, please, and I look forward to seeing what Todd has to add to this. Thanks for your time.
So I have to admit that Matt and myself did this at the Western History Association in October, and I presented with him on rephotography, and I actually had never done it. So this is hopefully going to be a little bit better because now we've done it. So and I love terrible transitions, so they're going to be in here. So here's some additional Canyon de Chelly photos that I found at the Library of Congress. Here's another one. I think Matt already had that one. Let's see. So real quick, what are some historic Denver landmarks? Molly Brown House, good. The clock tower, good. So I have Capitol Building, Union Station. Daniels and Fisher Tower, which I think is the clock tower someone just mentioned, Brown Palace Hotel, and the Denver Mint. So no one said Mint. That's okay. So here's one that I found. 1913, some children standing in. This is one of the largest snowstorms in Denver history. I think it was 1913. And I'll come back to this, and I'll show you why. Here's Union Station. So when Matt and I talked about this for the WHA conference, we were trying to figure out a way how, so he has students there. He has students in the place as primary source. But what can you have your students do? Especially if you can't take them to Canyon de Chelly, right? So we came up with this idea of rephotography. Here's another one, a Buckhorn Exchange, which is another Denver landmark. I looked it up, and it first came into or it was built in 1866 and between 1866 and 1870. So it's actually, and it looks nothing like this anymore. There's a huge apartment complex, like about 10 feet behind it now. So I took this idea of rephotography, and I'll go into detail. And actually, I took this from the Library of Congress, went in there, and said, I want to recreate this photograph. I want to use rephotography, explain what rephotography was. Well, the problem is this bar on the left is actually upstairs facing a completely different direction. So I can't recreate this photo. But so you could use that as a, like Matt said, is how do places change over time, right? So let's get to how to get students to understand primary sources place. Get them out of the classroom, okay? Take them to the actual physical primary source and put them in the actual space. And then have them do rephotography, obviously, because that's what I'm talking about. So here is an example that's a little dark, but here's what rephotography is. Basically what you're doing is you're taking a primary source, in this case, this old picture, and you are physically going to that place, holding it up, and basically pasting it over, over the picture, or over the actual landscape that you're in. Here's an example. This is a great rephotography Flickr blog, and he's got some amazing examples, and I actually don't think I turned that into a hyperlink, so we're not going to go there. Here's another one. Can anyone tell me where that is? Here? Nope. It's downtown Portland. Yeah. I always say that Portland and Denver have the very, very same feel. So I really like this photograph. Here's one of my cool transitions. So how do you do it? And this is in a nutshell. Go to the Library of Congress, print out an old photo of an old landmark, travel to the physical location, hold up the picture in front of the actual landmark, take a picture, and you're done. But it's not that easy. And it sounds easy. It's not, though. I worked with Marilyn Cullen Revel's class. She teaches methods teaching for social studies master's course. So she loved this idea when I talked to her about it. And so we went to the Tivoli, which is just right over here. And I said, this was their project. They had to take a few pictures of the Tivoli. That's really dark, but that's okay. For a different project, but then I printed out some primary sources of the Tivoli, and the Tivoli is very, very old. I think it's 1860 as well, I think, 1867 or so. And here's them trying it, recreating it. Can anyone tell me what is different from the Flickr blog that I showed you? Yeah, the person's in the frame, right? So that's not right, because he's not supposed to be part of this primary sources place. And also, you'll notice too that the picture is way too big, right? So that's another thing that you're gonna have to teach your students, and I'll show you a little bit more. Here's one who did it right. They cut off the frame and they cut it into a smaller thing so that not only does it show on the left and right, but the primary source comes in. And the Tivoli used to be white, by the way. I had no idea until I found that source. So that's fun. Here's a really good one too. And then my favorite shot coming up right here is students trying it out. And from what Marilyn told me, they absolutely loved it. So let me see if I can go, actually I'll go to this next one. So what do you have to teach? Basic camera knowledge is one. Basic though, not like, you don't have to talk f-stops or focal length or anything. But depth of field is a huge one. One of the things you probably should mention is that the iPhone camera is different than a camera from 1915. So it might actually be impossible to recreate it. The difference between the eye and the lens is a huge one because students, what I saw, they were lining it up with their eyes and then sticking a picture up and trying to take it with their camera. Don't use your eyes at all. Use your camera to set up the shot. So this is all that you can, don't set up the shot using your eye. And cut up your photograph, and then choose a center of focus, right? And then the big one, the primary source goes over the landmark, not alongside it. So people were placing it next to it, and that's kind of not the whole point. It's to have this one particular thing. So let me go back real quick. And how would you take that one? What would be some problems taking this picture today? Possible problems. Yeah, there's a street there, there's a building there, there's trees, but that's also part of the fun of taking them to this place is seeing how much it changed and you actually physically get them there. So that is rephotography primary sources place.